let's stay in, I guess, rock. I have a couple of thoughts that I want to get to, and just in terms of like how we're defining
Mm,
rock music nowadays. But Black Midi is back, dropping Hellfire, which if Black Midi was already a pretty like indescribable band in terms of sound and influence, they just pushed that those boundaries even further with Hellfire, because while at once it feels like the most Black Midi album ever, it also feels like they are infusing more and more genres that just make them a chameleon in a sense. And
mm.
I think it really worked for me in a lot of ways. Did you have the same experience with Hellfire?
Yeah, I'd say so. Third album in 4 years for the British now trio, and I think the old label of like post punk, you know, band of which they were rising around the same time as some contemporaries like Squid and Black Country New Road, this new subsect brewing across the pond in the UK and England, and yet now with Hellfire, it's like wow, like the post punk is only part of their music now.
Hmm.
It's experimental rock, noise rock, math rock. It's all kinds of stuff that frankly I don't know how to quantify or describe half the time because like you said, they're just cramming stuff in
Yeah.
and they're having a blast. They've said as much in promo. They're like, yeah, we're just having fun and making a living basically and more power to them, you know? But yeah, I think it's they make music, and this has been the case for the whole time. I think it's even more obvious now. Like it's like they make music where it's like, for me, I can't even go down the rabbit hole with the lyrics. Like there there are threads on threads online about like
Yeah.
references to Cavalcade, their second album, and all kinds of stuff. It's like, I can't even engage with that because there's just so much sensory overload with the musical, the instruments, the production alone. I can barely listen to what he says, but I think the vocals can be kind of fun, and I think Hellfire. Uh, I think interested me most because it seemed like it's their most like positive album. It's like really it's like a movie, like a blockbuster movie. If Black Midi scored one, there's like a lot of events happening. Now, can I tell you necessarily what all these events are? No, but there were events. Things happened on Hellfire.
Yes, things definitely happen on Hellfire. Yeah, I mean, Dangerous Liaisons, a song that is like a cabaret show tuney type song, is about I'm pretty sure like getting a man for hire, or like the person who's like the main character in the song being asked to kill somebody.
Mm,
Pretty interesting stuff, and like you said, like you can go down the rabbit hole with this stuff and try to make connections. I think that's just like to me that's the secondary part of their music, because I think the sonics of it are just really interesting. um but man, I don't know if I ever expected to listen to an album where like I hear songs that sound like Primus, and then songs that sound like they're like made for Frank Sinatra in some sense. It just is like
mm,
how they blend this all together and make it sound even somewhat cohesive is pretty interesting. And I think even more interesting is like they recorded this in 13 days. Them and their producer, Marta Salagini, Salagni, maybe I don't know exactly how to say the last name. I apologize. Um, just like they were on tour and just like got in a studio for 13 days and just recorded all this and put it out while they were touring. Pretty interesting. And I think it definitely feels like they just like had this lightning bolt of ideas and was just like, let's just
mm.
get all this out and see what comes of it. Um, I don't think it all works, like the first two tracks, Hellfire and then Sugar Zoo, are like pretty out there. It's got this like army drum line going through Hellfire, and the next one is like supposed to be like a boxing match like type announcer
Mm.
guy at the beginning. It's when it finally gets to the music, it's noisy and fast paced and like crazy like energy, but it's a lot, you know.
Yeah.
And I think I don't think everybody's gonna love this, but I definitely love that they just kind of went for this kind of shit.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's very self-indulgent. It's very busy. on the other side, though, is also very loose and free of convention,
Yeah.
and they're getting more and more singular as they go. Like I said, the post punk umbrella barely applies anymore. So it's weird. Like the whole time, ever since I heard Schlagenheim and like BM and all that stuff, it's like I don't know if this is like music that I necessarily like feel compelled to revisit a lot. But whenever I do hear it, I just find it interesting because of the breadth and volume of ideas that they just bring to the music, and they make it sound good, or at least it's very well made. It doesn't mean it's always sounds good, like you said. Sometimes it just can be like displeasing to the ear of some listeners, and like for me, it's like yeah, it's like sometimes it can be just noise, but hey, they're doing their thing, and I respect that.
Yeah, I think one of those. I think probably the most like displeasing song to me, and it's not even like a full song. It's more like an interlude. Is halftime, which is
Mm,
just like it's really supposed to be like I think like a midway point of the album, but like it has that like distorted like I don't know what it is like tuning of a radio, which I just really hated, and it really
mm,
kind of like took me out. But then you get into the second half of the album, which I think is pretty strong. Like the race is about to begin has that like super awesome guitar. It's like bang new new bang new new and the drums. I mean, Morgan Simpson just went crazy on the drums on this album. They're
mm.
fucking ripping the whole time. And then you get a Dangerous Liaisons, probably one of my favorites on the album. And then you get the Defense, which might actually be like the most beautiful song on the album. You know, they're
Mm,
using a lot of like country and like
yeah.
the what is that thing called on the guitar when they the the metal thing on the finger. I can't remember what it's called, but
Hmm.
basically it makes it sound like a wah, 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 type
Oh
of thing.
yeah,
Um,
the bar, whatever it's
yeah,
called.
I always know the name. I can't think of it now, but regardless, I think this is still a pretty strong showing. Did you have any songs that you were like, oh, that one's pretty cool? I like that one more than some of the others.
Yeah, I enjoyed Welcome to Hell.
Okay.
Um, I thought actually Hellfire, the way that starts with like all those horns going on, then you get the vocals coming in. I actually kind of enjoyed that.
Hmm.
Um, I think strum bar is what we were looking for there on the guitar.
Yeah.
Maybe not. Um, Still, I thought was kind of cool, and on the race is about to begin. I did kind of enjoy that song's function as an interlude, where the announcer is like, Coming up, a song like no other." It's like they're very self-aware about the music they are making, which I just appreciate. So I think for me overall, "Welcome to Hell" I thought was the most enjoyable, and to me felt like one of the more conventional songs, obviously on a curve per Black Midi standards, but um, yeah, I think overall, like if you're a fan of Black Midi, or at least have had interest in them, 3 albums in 4 years, this definitely continues that progression. And I don't see why this would turn off someone who hadn't already been turned off.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, I think Welcome to Hell is probably my favorite, but like I mentioned, Dangerous Liaisons I really enjoyed as well. So definitely recommend checking this out if you've enjoyed them to this point or even just interested in them. That post punk music scene. Oh, so this is what I wanted to ask you. I listened to this on a run. You know, we talk about alternative music all the time. We talk about most of the time female alternative artists, right? At this point, is this really what the alternative music is? Like this post punk like movement, and it's more and like that at this point, like Phoebe Bridgers and all them are really just more so like what rock music really
Yeah.
is. You know, it feels like there's just been a shift in terms of what we consider to be alternative.
Yeah. Well, you'll notice we didn't talk about the new Interpol album this week.
Dave, you're
uh,
gonna have the Interpol stance coming for you now. You know
eh,
that.
First time in 4 years. It's all right. Yeah, no, I think that's right. I think the indie rock has largely moved to the center, largely driven and carried on the backs of women, as we've talked about a lot. And this kind of as close to mainstreaming as you can do with this kind of music seems to have happened with all these other post punk bands. Now, I think it's important to note that like these are definitely fringe acts as far as like national or global scale. Like look at like the scope of the rooms they would be touring in, stuff like that. So there still seems to be kind of like the rock music in name only that truly dominates, like your Imagine Dragons and your Mumford and Sons and that kind of shit.
Hmm.
But like in terms of like what the critical community seems to pay attention to, yeah, I think that's definitely right. That indie rock seems to have been, and the like more mainline indie rock we think about the last 5 years, that seems to be the center, or
Yeah,
at least the center of what people really care about.
yeah, that
And I guess we should note too that pop music has made a clear pivot, or at least down a road for now, to more throwback pop punk sounds. But that's largely been still under the umbrella of as part of pop music. You know, think of like Machine Gun Kelly and now people like Demi Lovato as well. Like you're definitely hearing rock being upstreamed as well. So it's evolving, and I'm very curious to hear how much rock we might get on the 1975 album that comes out at
mhm.
the end of the year. TBD there, but yeah, I think rock is, there's at least I think more interesting things going on than there were like 5 years ago.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and I'm glad that we're kind of on the same page with that. We'll be talking about a lot of the music from this scene as it makes sense to, but definitely check out Black Midi.